Hello, Mr.Gobbo here. Welcome to Battle Report number 13. This time I go up against Berghofer / 6 Nightmare 9, who brought out his Kingdom of Equitaine. I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. For this battle we used a roster size of 2000 points and the 9th age beta 0.11.9.3 rule set. We deployed the terrain after an ETC template, where I replaced the lake in the middle with a field, because I currently don't own a lake. I've got plans though. We rolled for deployment type and secondary objectives, and we got classical deployment, and our secondary objective was hold the ground. Now, let's take a look at our lists. As always, feel free to pause the video at any time in order to get more time to read the details. My opponent went with a formidable Duke, and a Paladin BSB to ride with the Knights of the Grail. An interesting thing is the Damsel giving the Peasant Levy a 5-up ward save. That may actually help them survive combat for more than one round. I think the Pegasus Knights are for war machine hunting and anti-chaff duty, and the Catapult forces me to protect my Green Idol a bit. The two units of Peasant Bowmen seem like they're perfectly equipped to handle my trolls. I decided to bring my Feral Orc Warlord, Rump da Lucky, to the battlefield. My reasoning is that the Orcs and Goblins will probably be nerfed a bit, so I wanted to try out the WAAAAGH in combination with the Green Idol. The Goblins are for providing a small threat to Knights, and if I'm lucky, I might just kill a few. I also decided to try out the Troll Chariots for the first time ever, as I needed some cheap drops to be able to handle my opponent's charges, allowing me to countercharge. The Knights hit hard when they charge, but they seem vulnerable to countercharging. I also hope my Git Launcher will strike fear into the heart of my opponent, forcing him to move forwards, or maybe even make mistakes. As for spells, my Forest Goblin Big Shaman went with the Path of Shadows, and I got the signature spell and spells number 5 and 6. Imagine if I put the Mind Rays on my charging, wowing Feral Orcs who have aid from my Green Idol. Well, okay, let's see if I can pull it off. My Feral Orc Shaman went with the Path of Wilderness, as Toughness 5 Orcs sounds useful. I got the signature spell and spell number 5, Curse of the Wildwood. This is particularly nasty against expensive Knights. This may even help me keep my opponent at bay, letting me get the charge. Who knows? This is the first time I'm going up against the Kingdom of Equitaine in a 9th age battle. I've only played them once before in the Warhammer Fantasy Battles 8th edition, where I lost. So I don't really know how to deal with him, but I'll just go with my usual battle plan. Number 1, move up in the middle. I'll keep my Feral Orc Ed Bashers and Green Idol in the middle and move up towards the field. Number 2, bait the Knights with my Trolls near the field. Number 3, countercharge and war. Number 4, number 5, victory. My opponent decided to pray, so I got the first turn. So here it is, the Orcs and Goblins turn 1. In the movement phase, I moved my army forwards. Please note that because of difficulties balancing my Orc block on the edge of the hill, their position is, and will be indicated by the orange die near one of my trolls for the next couple of turns. The general idea is to harass the left unit of Peasant Bowmen, distracting them from firing at my trolls. I'm going to use my Grotlins for this job. The Gnasher Herd is supposed to deal with the right unit of Peasant Bowmen, and maybe take out the Catapult too. My Goblins are supposed to annoy the Knights of the Realm, and the Duke too. My Feral Orcs want to team up with the Green Idol to take out the Knights of the Grail. I don't really know what to do about the Peasant Levies. I think I'll just try to ignore them, and if that fails, maybe I'll try to flank them with my Gnasher Herd. And my Wrecking Team? It's probably dead no later than turn 2 anyways, so no plans for that. In the magic phase, I get off the Beast Within on my Feral Orcs, increasing their strength and toughness by 1. In the shooting phase, my stupid Git Launcher misfires. I cannot fire in this turn or the next. My Skewer misses the Knights of the Realm. And there was no close combat. So it's time for the Kingdom of Equitaine turn 1. In the movement phase, the Pegasus Knights move closer to my Git Launcher. Will it ever get to fire again? My opponent doesn't move any of his other units. He seems to be a bit taken aback by my uncharacteristically aggressive approach. In the magic phase, the inevitable happens. The Wrecking Team is DED. Dead. In the shooting phase, the Peasant Bowmen in front of the Catapult shoot at one of my Trolls, causing 1 wound. The Bowmen on my left flank inflict 5 wounds on the nearby Grotlins, removing 1 base. And there was no close combat. So let's get on with the Orcs and Goblins turn 2. In the movement phase, I declare a rather long charge on the Bowmen with my Gnasher Herd. I need to roll 9, but with Swift Stride, it should be possible. The reward is great if I get it off. I will probably break the bowman and maybe get to overrun into the catapult, forcing my opponent to get on the move. I lose 1 Nasher from the stand and shoot reaction, and I don't roll high enough, so I end up moving 3 inches. The rest of my units move forwards. I put 2 trolls in front of my idol in order to protect it from the Grail Knights. The already wounded troll is left in front of my ferals, baiting my opponent to engage it, and get that 100% chance of overrunning into my Feral Orcs. I hope the temptation is too great to resist. Remember that my ferals are positioned at the orange die. In the magic phase, I get off the Curse of the Wildwood on the Knights of the Grail. I hope they'll take some casualties from the possible dangerous terrain tests next turn. In the shooting phase, my Grotlings use their throwing weapons to kill 1 bowman. My skewer misses. And there was no close combat. And now, the Kingdom of Equitaine, turn 2. In the movement phase, my opponent goes on the offensive. He declares a charge with both the Knights of the Realm and the levies on my goblins. Bye bye, Shaman. The Grail Knights take the bait, and they charge the lone troll in front of my ferals. Lucky for me, the levies don't reach my gobbos, but the other knights naturally get in. Oh, I almost forgot. The Grotlins on my right flank are charged by the Pegasus Knights. And now, the magic phase. Knowing that my scroll-carrying Big Shaman is a goner, I use my Dispel Scroll in this magic phase, effectively shutting it down. This is vital to my chances of breaking the Knights of the Grail next turn. In the shooting phase, the bowman on my left flank put 3 wounds on my Grotlins. The bowman on the right side put a wound on the nearby troll. Lucky for me, the catapult misfires. It takes a wound, but is able to shoot again the next turn. And yeah, the Grotlins are crushed by the Pegasus Knights in the close combat phase, and they overrun into my Git launcher. That was sad. I didn't really get to use it at all. The Knights of the Grail kill the troll and overrun into my ferals, and 2 knights fail their dangerous terrain tests. My goblins manage to kill 1 knight, and I lose my shaman along with a lot of goblins. My gubbers are steadfast, and I pass my break test. And now the Orcs and Goblins turn 3. First, the movement phase. The time has come. It's time to spring the trap. I pray to the green gods that I will pass the stupidity tests with my trolls, and luckily I don't fail them. I declare charge with my Nasher herd on the nearby bowmen, who decide to flee. Sadly, I fail my leadership test to redirect into the catapult. But I take the opportunity to declare charge on the fleeing bowmen with my nearby troll, thus taking them off the table. The troll then tries to redirect into the catapult, but I fail. My last troll also tries the long charge on the catapult. My green idol charges the flank of the Knights of the Grail. The real trap. Only the green idol makes it. My Grotlins move up behind the bowmen to harass them even more. In the magic phase, I totally flop my rolls, and I don't get a single spell through. In the shooting phase, I hit the flank of the bowman with my skewer. Time to remove a rank. However, I roll a 1 to wound. My Grotlins also fail to hit anything with their throwing weapons. In the close combat phase, I kill every single Knight of the Grail. Only the BSB is left, who auto-breaks and runs 8 inches. I pursue with both the ferals, who have Swift Stride, and with my idol, but I fail to catch him. So close. My Gubbos perform slightly better than the last round of combat, killing 2 Knights of the Realm, and the Gubbos remain steadfast. I think they're gone after the next round of combat though. The Git launcher is killed by the Pegasus Knights, who get ready to continue their war machine hunt. And now, the Kingdom of Equitaine, turn 3. In the movement phase, the BSB rallies and the damsel tries to escape certain death by leaving the levies. The levies reform to horde formation in order to dish out more damage in the following turn, and also to guard their previously exposed flank. In the magic phase, the aforementioned damsel then blasts 6 Feral Orcs with a damaging spell. Someone is trying to remove ranks from my unit. In the shooting phase, the catapult gets a direct hit on the idol and causes 3 wounds. Nasty business. In the close combat phase, the Gubbos are overwhelmed and break from combat. My opponent decides to pivot instead of pursuing, so the Knights can flank my Bashers in the next turn. And now the Orcs and Goblins turn 4. First, the movement phase. War! The war is declared, and my idol charges the BSB, who decides to flee. The idol then redirects into the levies. The Feral Orcs naturally charge the levies as well. The Nashers declare charge on the catapult. This should finish it, as it only has 2 wounds left. Oh yes, the Grotlins charge the rear of the bowmen. My Gubbos rally. I forgot to take a picture of this. The Trolls move in to guard the flank of my Ferals. However, I don't quite succeed. I think I deserve an E for effort. In the magic phase, I get off the Beast Within, boosting the strength and toughness of my Feral Orcs. And there was no decisive shooting as my skewer hits the BSB, but rolls a 1 to wound again. In the close combat phase, my Nashers actually super flop and only cost 2 wounds. However, it was enough to kill the catapult. The Nasher herd then pivots to get ready to kill things in my next turn. The Grotlings actually win combat and they succeed in holding the bowmen for another turn. In the big combat, I totally wreck the levies, even though they have a 5-up ward save. They auto-break from combat and I catch them with both my idol and the ferals. I just wish my idol had moved a few more inches forwards, but you can't have everything. And now the Kingdom of Equitaine turn 4. In the movement phase, the Knights of the Realm decide to charge the butthole of the big rock. Time for some rock butt jousting. The Pegasus Knights charge the skewer. Stupid gits did nothing all game. 1 knight dies from the dangerous terrain tests. Oh, the BSB rallies too. In the magic phase, the Damsel blasts 3 of the Nashers with a spell. And there was no shooting. In the close combat phase, the skewer is wrecked. The Knights of the Realm finish their butt jousting and the idol is nowhere to be found. The Grotlins hold up the bowmen for another turn. And now the Orcs and Goblins turn 5. In the movement phase, I decide against charging in with my Nashers alone. My Feral Orcs perform a swift reform in order to face the Knights and then move closer. It's a trap! My Trolls hopelessly fail their stupidity tests and just stumble d6 inches in whichever direction they were facing. My Gobbos just hide in the forest. In the magic phase, I get off the Curse of the Wildwood on the kniggets. This should make things interesting, should they decide to charge or march away. I also get off the Beast Within on the Nasher herd, making them just that bit more dangerous. And there was no shooting. In the close combat phase, the Grotlins finally die. They fought briefly. And it's time for the Kingdom of Equitaine, turn 5. In the movement phase, my opponent, afraid of my obvious trap, decides to perform a swift reform, and then moves into the field, as far away from my units as possible. The Pegasus Knights move towards the center of the battlefield, probably to block my units in turn 6. In the magic phase, my opponent doesn't get a single spell off. Lucky for me. In the shooting phase, the bowmen kill the closest troll. That's one less stupidity test right there. And there was no close combat. And now, the Orcs and Goblins turn 6. First, the movement phase. Okay, this may be a wee bit complicated. I charge the Knights of the Realm, they decide to flee. They have to take a couple of dangerous terrain tests, and they also flee through my troll. They get unlucky and lose 4 knights. I then redirect my Nasher herd into the Pegasus Knights, who also decide to flee. This makes the Pegasus Knights get within range of my Forest Gobbos, who declare a charge on them too. And they have to flee again. This gets them into an awkward position. I then move my Feral Ed Bashers up so they get within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield, holding the secondary objective. In the magic phase, I get off the Beast Within on my Feral Ed Bashers, and I then use the low attribute to move the Nasher herd up a bit, just because it looks pretty. Oh, I also put the curse on the enemy BSP, just because I don't want him to get any ideas. There was no shooting and no close combat. So, it's time for the Kingdom of Equitaine turn 6, the last turn of the game. First, the movement phase. Rather surprisingly, the Duke and Knights of the Realm fail to rally. 50% victory points for me, baby. The Pegasus Knights rally. My opponent sees no need to move his other units about. In the magic phase, no spells were successfully cast. And in the shooting phase, the bowmen shoot 2 goblins, failing by 1 wound to get 50% victory points from my goblins. And there was no close combat. And that's it! A crushing victory to the Orcs and Goblins, 9-1! Wow, you is the best! To be honest, it felt really good winning a decisive victory with the Orcs and Goblins, and especially with a close combat oriented army. It is also my first victory against Berghofer in the 9th Age. It was my luck that he had grown tired of tabling me with his beast herds, and tried a more unfamiliar army. Maybe he let me win? I may never know. Now, time for some afterthoughts. Number 1, the idol and WAAAAGH is probably too strong. It wouldn't surprise me if it got toned down a bit. I just love that big rock though. Number 2, my opponent took the bait and charged my lone troll. This allowed me to countercharge him and to get a chance to buff my own units before the combat round. Number 3, I think my movement game has gotten slightly better as I play more games with an aggressive playstyle. I gradually get better at choosing matchups and choosing charge synergies. Well, that's all for now. If you have any feedback, tactical or otherwise, feel free to leave a comment on my YouTube channel or on my 9th Age user blog. Thank you for watching and take care. I should go. Mr. Gobbo out.